Um, got it. Uh-oh, wait a second. Do you still see me?
Yes, Rebbe is perfect right now.
All right. Oh, wow. All right, guys, it's great to, I guess, be seen. Um, although I don't see you guys, I'd really love to see your faces. But I understand on a Shalom Bayis class, everybody wants to remain anonymous, so I guess I don't get to see everybody. I tell you this, I get very lucky this week being asked to speak on Shalom Bayis, and it's the Parsha is talking about the binyan of the Mishkan. And of course, the Mishkan is the place where the Mishkan HaEdus, which really is a place where Kosh Baruch Hu and Klal Yisrael come together, is where we meet, and where Kosh Baruch Hu is one of the few things that we say that Kosh Baruch Hu had a desire for. It actually terms as a lust. Kosh Baruch Hu wanted to have a dwelling place in the lower worlds. And that's why he yearned so much, as it were, to have a Mishkan, a place of meeting, where Klal Yisrael and Kosh Baruch Hu, and even the whole world, was able to sense God's presence in the world. And I think that that's really the goal in our own marriages, is really to have that home base, to have a time in which husband and wife are able to be totally together and to forge a bond that creates the connection and the unity that's necessary, that when one leaves the home, one always has, I don't want to use the term necessarily anchored, but is always, and tethered is also has some negative connotations to that, but we're always connected. It's an interesting thing that they say, Chazal tell us that there's been a custom for many centuries that the Kala would provide a talus for the chassan. And one of the reasons is that the Kala's providing that talus is that she kind of surrounds him. And in the Svarim Kedoshim, it says that there's a certain protective measure that a wife provides for the husband, of being with is known in the Svarim Kedoshim as an or makif, a surrounding light. And that's also part of the reasons by the chuppah that the wife walks around, the bride walks around the husband 7 times, and to build up that connective, protective barrier. At the same time, though, it's supposed to break down barriers between the two, and it kind of happens simultaneously, building up a protection and connection while taking away the negative effects and from outside, and anything that would hinder the relationship between the husband and the wife as well. So Kosh Baruch Hu tells us to build Kosh Baruch Hu a Mishkan, v'shachanti b'socham, that I want to dwell in their midst. The question is that a lot of times people look at marriage sometimes as some people call it like a business deal. It's that I'll go out and make the money, you take care of things at home. Or it could be the other way around. If you're a Mr. Mom, I'm not sure exactly, but sometimes it's a deal, and that's not what a marriage is supposed to be like. A lot of times people say that they came to Neveh and they had to deal with their roommates and prepare them for marriage. Maybe a little bit, but it's a totally different relationship. I'm talking about the emotional things, that there's a commitment. The commitment of marriage is to be bonded, is to be one and united. Friends are friends, but the being united, it says that they should ken yazov ish aviv imo v'davak beishto. It says that a person, a man, is supposed to, as it were, abandon his parents and cling to his wife. That means that there's a certain thing that even the relationship with my parents, which I have Chiyuv D'Oraisa to honor my parents of Kibbud Av V'Em, one of the 10 Commandments, but v'davek be'ishto. It's as if kind of I could ignore that commandment. Of course, you can't go against it, but my priority has to be developing the bond and relationship with my wife. And that's really the essence of marriage in a nutshell, is my dedication to my wife. Now, I'm not sure if I know that some of the past Shiurim were given by dynamic duos, some Rabbanim and their Rebbitzins, and I'm not able to do that in this circumstance. But I'm not sure if any wives are listening to this. So I'm focusing more on the men. So if there are wives that are listening to this, please be mochel me. But I'm trying to speak to the Neveh guys, and hopefully that would, if anybody has any questions on what I say, please feel free to reach out, and B'ezras Hashem, we could clarify anything that needs clarification. One of the famous ideas that I was offered to hear from a Friedlander was a famous Gemara. The famous Gemara says that in Eretz Yisrael, the day after the Chasna, they used to ask the Chassan, matzah or moitza? Very seemingly strange question, matzah or moitza. But really, it's basically asking the Chassan, have you found the relationship with your wife to be like matzah or moitza? Matzah is based on a pasuk that Shlomo Melech wrote that says, matzah ani, matzah isha matzah tov. You found a wife, you found the ultimate goodness. It's amazing. And another pasuk that Shlomo Melech also wrote, it says, matzah ani mari mavas isha. I'm not quoting exactly, just I don't have this farm in front of me. I found a woman to be more bitter than death. It's pretty antithetical. One is matzah isha. You found the wife, you found the ultimate goodness, and then you found more bitter than death. It's like, whoa, is Shlomo Melech schizophrenic? So some people say Shlomo Melech had many women as wives, and he, even out of 1,000, he didn't find one that he really felt. But that's a different sicha, as they say. But either which way, he said both. So what's the difference between the two? So a Friedlander, Zecher Tzadik V'Bracha, Schusi Genelenu, said that matzah isha matzah tov is what is the subject of the pasuk. The subject of the pasuk is the isha. In other words, the person himself is kind of like hidden. It's matzah isha matzah tov. You found a wife. I mean, even the you is not even mentioned. Matzah, finding a wife is finding good. Whereas in the other pasuk it says motza ani, the word ani is inserted in there. When a person is looking, what do I get out of the relationship? All of a sudden, it can become more bitter than death. Which really comes, and that's what Friedlander was saying, that it's a perspective in life that we have to have in our marriages, is who is the object of everything that I'm involved with in the relationship. If it becomes about me, so then all of a sudden, things can be more bitter than death. But if I'm looking what I could be doing for my spouse, then everything will be amazing. And I think that there's a parallel, like we're talking about the Mishkan of Akash Baruch Hu. It's a beautiful Yid in Yerushalayim, many beautiful Yid in Yerushalayim. That I was able to know, his name is Rav Tawil, a very special tzaddik of a person. And he told me that a vort that he heard from Rav Chaim Graneman, and somebody came to Rav Chaim Graneman's house, and Rav Chaim Graneman, kind of like Rav Steinman, lived a very simple life. Everything was very simple. They say that he didn't even have spackling, or what do they call it, whitewash on the walls of his house. It's basically cinder blocks. He never, his whole house was a zeicher l'churban. Somebody came in and said, Rebbe, don't you want to have something a little bit nicer? And it's like, what am I lacking? I'm not. It's felt managed. I'm not lacking anything. I've got everything I want. So he said, why? There's a famous pasuk we all say, Dorshe Hashem lo yachsaru kol tov. Those who are seeking out Hashem, they're never lacking anything. Because what are their lives are dedicating what I could do for Kadosh Baruch Hu. And so therefore, I don't take myself as a priority. Obviously, I mean, there's something that we not all of us are supposed to be living like Rav Chaim Greneman lived. I don't think that coming from the background we come from and the society we're living in, that's our goal in life. But just the perspective of understanding is if I'm looking out for Hashem, I'm not going to be lacking. And I think it's a simple thing also. Let's say a person wants to have a job. So he goes to a company and he says, okay, this is your position. You're going to be a vice president, a team leader, whatever you're going to be. So you show up to work. You imagine you're going to have a table, a chair, maybe even a coffee machine, a desk, a computer, a phone line, because Akash Baruch Hu does the same thing for us. If you're on my team and you're looking out to do your job for me, so Hashem's going to provide us with everything we need to do our job. So too in a marriage, if we have that bond and that love and the connection, and I'm dedicated to my wife is going to be dedicated to me as well. It's going to be that reciprocal relationship. It's something that we're in this together, and I'm not going to be lacking anything because we are one. And hopefully that we learn to understand each other as time goes on, as what we need and what in order to function properly, what we need to build our lives together. And one of the brachas we give by a marriage also, we say to Chas and Kala, Tzisku leave nos bayis neman b'Yisrael. Faithful house in Israel. And also in the Sheva brachas we say v'hiskin lo mimenu binyan ad yad, this never-ending building. So, but if you think about it, the idea of the building, and it seems to be a burden, like growing up in California, why you want to bless me with building? I'm not a builder. I just want to have a beautiful home. I just want it to be. So the essence of marriage is that continual building of this edifice, which is supposed to be the relationship, the family. It becomes a franchise. It becomes a palace. It becomes a whole country of you, your wife, your children, your grandchildren, and everybody that you are involved with stems from the relationship that you have together. Now, I'm speaking a lot of platitudes, and I'm not sure exactly what each and every one of the other Rabbanim have done when it came to their speaking. I did listen a little bit to one or two of the schmoozes before, beautiful stuff. So I'm not sure exactly what is expected, but I want to really impress that perspective, and what I am looking at my relationship is probably the most fundamental thing a person could adjust in order that their Shalom Bayis should be improved. And so I suggest that a lot of times, throughout the day, just to call to say hello, just to be in touch, just to be cognizant of the person I'm committed to, just to be reaching out and to sending a note. It doesn't have to be huge overtures of long love letters and stuff like that. We're talking about very simple things. Your wife likes a certain sweet or flower or whatever it is, or be interested in something. You send that, you buy that, you bring that. Simple things, little stuff is very, very important to show your spouse that you're thinking about them, that your mind is with them, even though you don't always reach out to them throughout the day. I've heard some Rabbanim come and say that you have to call each other every few hours, and I'm not sure if that, I'm not sure if that every relationship needs that. Sometimes if a relationship is very fragile or is very precarious, so the more contact, the better. I'll just tell you, though, that ignoring is probably the most vile way of treating your spouse. Basically, we know that all the months of the year we should just Simcha, so we're very happy here, Marvin Simcha. But there's a month out of the year which is known as Mar Cheshvan. Why is it called Mar Cheshvan? Bitter Cheshvan. It's called Mar Cheshvan because there's no yontiv, not good or bad. Imagine the month of Av, where the Churban Beis Hamikdash is. You maybe Tammuz, you have such bitterness, terrible things happen there. Why don't we call it Mar Tammuz or Mar Av? But because it's not about, sometimes when there's a punishment and a give and take and there's a fight, shall we say, but there's interaction. When I'm being ignored, when I'm being shunned, that's a big travesty. That's a bitterness that is something to be avoided at all costs. Another thing, just as far as pieces of advice to avoid at all costs, is probably the nature of most women. As far as I grew up with a mother and two sisters, and I know that women have a different way of, in general, their emotions are a little bit different than men, or a lot different. One of the things is that once you say something that could be hurtful, it's almost impossible to ever take it back. So whatever you do, avoid at all costs ever trying to hurt your spouse in any which way, shape, or form. But even verbally, even though it's like, I didn't touch her. Chas v'shalom, if you insult a woman, even if like you say, oh, I'm so sorry, what was I thinking? How could I be so cruel? I didn't mean it. I was just like, I lost my mind. Chas v'shalom, if you get into an argument a few years down the road, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years later, I remember when you said I was ugly. It comes up. It doesn't ever really get totally erased. So, just another piece of advice of what pitfalls to avoid. But I think that the main idea is just constant reminding each other of your commitment. And again, it doesn't have to be, intense romance constantly. It's the connection and the knowledge that you're thinking of each other is what really fortifies the marriage the most. And so there's many, many different ways a person could do that. But I think that a start of improving Shalom Bayis would be just, if you don't already do it, to call your wife at least one time during the day for no other reason, but just say, just as thinking about you want to share something with you, or just want to tell you something that's going on. And preferably not business, some other thing, just to involve her, just that she should know that you're on the top of her of your mind. She's at the top of your mind. And that's basically the message I wanted to share. I don't know if anybody have questions. I can't see anybody. It's very frustrating. So, I don't know if anybody has any questions, or I don't know. I'm able to see somebody. I see Miller, David Miller. Wow. And Mayor. Wow.
Everyone can unmute themselves and ask questions.
Okay, so if anybody has any questions, stories, anecdotes, criticisms, be happy to interact, as they say.
You're making a lot of sense, Reb David. You coming to Chicago anytime soon?
You have a good reason for me to come? Any simchas in the future? Not yet.
Make it there before you make it here.
Yeah, you got to come see the new campus building up. We're trying to get that rolling. It's very geschmack. We have like a multi-state thing. We have Chicago, we have Baltimore, we have New York, we have New Jersey. Unbelievable. So, anybody have any questions or something or something they want to ask or say? No? Okay,
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
all good. It's great to hear your
we're
voice and to see you.
we're actually having up there a campaign tonight for a Purim. So just putting a plug in for anybody who wants to help keep the place afloat. Recently, we've lifted off a little bit. We're a little bit afloat. We want to get higher, So, Siyata D'Shmaya. If anybody's interested, I'm sure you've been bombarded already with many different links to contribute. But okay, so all right, just a thought about Mishnichnas Adar, if you want. The month of Adar is really the time to focus on joy, and it's interesting. The Sefer Yetzirah, it's a interesting Sefer. It says that the month of Adar has a certain propensity to be connected with laughter. So I was thinking of making a funny face and seeing if people would laugh, but that's not really my goal. It seems to be Rav Tzadok HaKohen actually suggested that simcha is such an important mitzvah, and laughter is such a powerful tool to express simcha. But we know the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos says, "Tzchok v'kalos ros margilas adam la'erva." It can lead a person to do very illicit behavior, which is not appropriate, which is Issur D'Oraisa. So how do you deal with this? So Rabbeinu Bechaya says that it is a mitzvah to be b'simcha, but he says, what kind of simcha does a person have to strive to attain? And that he said, the simcha is a simcha shel mitzvah. And I just said, how does a person have a simcha shel mitzvah? So another thing that they say that Amalek, which was, Haman was from Amalek, it's the gematria of the word Amalek is safek, doubt. It creates doubts in our minds. Chazal tell us, Ein simcha ka'ataras hasfekus. There's no greater joy than getting rid of all your doubts. So how does a person have no doubts in their life? So the simplest thing is, anytime you're doing a mitzvah, that mitzvah that you're doing, there's no doubt this is what Hashem wants you to do. So if you have no doubts that you're doing what Hashem wants you to do, you have to be tremendously b'simcha, especially since the schar mitzvah is a mitzvah, the reward of a mitzvah is another mitzvah. It's like an endless cycle of an infinite loop of more and more mitzvahs. So what greater way to be b'simcha? And I think that that's one of the things that also help in a marriage, is to be so grateful to HaKadosh Baruch Hu that you have your spouse. So some people say, well, sometimes when people are having problems, they say, Rabbi, I'm not sure I married the right girl. It's, I wanted Rachel and I got Leah, but really, there are some of the big tzaddikim write that if you were able to put the ring on your wife, that's the Ratzon Hashem. Hashem wanted that. Now, what happens afterwards could be people make mistakes and people grow and things like that. But the fact that you're married is what Hashem wants from you. Is that she is your wife and you're supposed to make the best of it and supposed to be happy that you have each other. And even though things may have evolved over the years since you got married, this is your wife and this is your tafkid, is to be with your wife and to understand I have to be with simcha. Now, of course, chas v'shalom, should never happen that there are grounds for terminating a marriage, but hopefully none of us are experiencing things like that. We just sometimes go through the throes, not bad throws in the football field, but throes with the OES of issues in life and stresses and things that distract us from focusing what we're supposed to do in order to recognize and realize how we're supposed to conduct ourselves. And that's why a lot of stress enters marriages and causes issues. But really deep down inside, if you remember the good old days, I just saw a picture of a friend of mine who unfortunately got divorced. But I looked at the picture of him and his wife. I mean, they had many kids. It's unbelievable. Him and his wife, he was at my house on a Purim, and I don't know who took the picture, that he's come and giving me a big hug. And you see his wife holding one of their little babies. She's looking at, oh, my husband. Oh, it's so beautiful. And you see, like, they had something very important. Something happened over time, but the foundation of the marriage was there all along. What happened afterwards, chas v'shalom, neveh aleinu, we don't want it to devolve into that. So we have to really hope and daven that we should be able to focus and recognize the goodness that we have and see the beauty that we started our marriage with, and hopefully we'll be able to continue that bond and build on that. And if we do our part, B'ezras Hashem will get the recipient of a reciprocal type of relationship. And the more we invest, we'll get invested in B'ezras Hashem. Kodesh Baruch Hu should bless us. It's never too late. B'ezras Hashem, Kodesh Baruch Hu should help us always be able to build. And if the marriage is amazing, it should be even more amazing. Kodesh Baruch Hu, binyan adiyah, they said, it's a continual building of our relationship and magnifying it. But there is something very clutch. I don't know if you have another minute. It's already 8:30. So my chavrusa, his name is Rabbi Becker. He's a big Talmid Chacham. He says that there's two questions that either build a relationship or break. No, do I know or don't know? And do I want to know or don't want to know? And if I don't know something about my spouse, then that makes the relationship better. And but I could always say I don't want to know. If you don't want to know, that zaps the relationship. But if I say I want to know, that really makes a relationship vibrant. I don't know and I want to know. If you say I know or I don't want to know, then it just kills every relationship. And it's in every aspect of life. I mean, I plug this model in. I think that's the phenomenon why a lot of people come to Neveh with mohawks and piercings through their nasal cavities and all different orifices or whatever. They have very interesting, appearances. I think that they're the victims of parents. If a parent wants to have a good relationship with it, and the child saying, "You think you know me? I'll show you I don't know that you don't know me," and therefore they'll get this mohawk or tattoos, lo aleinu, and all kinds of crazy things just to prove the parents you don't know me. And that's why with the Kodesh Baruch Hu also same thing works. If I say I know God, then you're on some kind of trip. God, that also just kills relationship. So these are things that are very important to keep in mind. And one wow, that'll be
wow.
Uh-oh.
See you later, David.
Again, Baruch Habatzlacha and Mila, call too.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Okay, Baruch Habatzlacha. Is that who else is there? I'm not sure I have a name of Neveh Tzion. I don't know who that is. And Jeff M. So I'm just guessing it must be Jeff Mansbeck. But I'm not sure if Yossi Gerecht is around. I'm not sure who else is there. But, who else is still with me on this?
There's Jeff M and me, Rebbe, but I have to shut down. The guys are starting to go crazy up here, and we got to get them.
Go.
Okay,
All
thank
right.
you, Rebbe. Thank you.
Too.